Most people will probably think this is a crazy question. And that question is, do you think that the powers that be, the government agencies like FDA, like Big Pharma, these globalists, these environmentalists, do you think that these people, these organizations, these groups, the government, are actively trying to kill the American people? Or at least trying to kill a large portion of the American people to lower the population? It definitely seems like it. Everything that we see, it seems like it is a push to lower the population, to decrease birth rates, to increase death rates. And most people will think you're some kind of complete lunatic if you ask this question. However, it seems to me that the evidence is overwhelming. There's so much out there, so many things they do that are counterproductive to, our health, to our well-being, to our way of life. It's like they're actively trying to figure out how they can kill us slow enough that people won't recognize what they're actually doing, but enough to actually lower the population down to the numbers that they want. And you're going to be saying, oh, this guy's a lunatic, this guy's crazy, this guy's a conspiracy theorist. But hear me out for a minute. Let's talk about this. If you look at some of the things that the government does, some of the things that the FDA approves, just poisons in our food, poisons in our medicine, we'll talk more about that in a minute. If you look at the environmentalists, what they're trying to do and what they say, if you look at people like Bill Gates, talks about lowering the population, talks about if we do a good job with the vaccines, we can lower the population. If you look at the economic reform, these think tanks, all the same agenda, lower their population and more control. If you look at the Georgia Guidestones that got blown up and got cleaned up within a few hours, no investigation, just blown up, gone, cleaned up. They had on there like 10 commandments of what these globalists want. And one of those was to lower the population and keep the population below that number. So they don't make it a secret what they want to do. But, these people like to work on reform, these groups, these think tanks, people will say, well, that's not the government. But these people run a lot of the government. They run a lot of the government agencies. They put their people in these agencies, like the FDA, for example. If you look at the medical establishment, for example, let's use this medical establishment. This is a good example right here. People think that it's about health, it's about healing people, it's about increasing the lifespan. But if you actually look at it, it's not really about that at all. Doctors, they go to college, then they go to medical school, and what they're taught in medical school is funded by Big Pharma. We have all the research that was funded by Big Pharma. And Big Pharma makes money from medication, from vaccines, from injections, from pills. And if people's healthy, then their profits get cut. So they take the doctors and teach them all about diagnosing symptoms and prescribing medications to control the symptoms. Some things that they have medicine for, pills, injections, aren't even, in my opinion, medical issues. Or at least not nearly as much as they make them out to be. Or at least not nearly as much, as they make these issues out to be. Take, for example, high cholesterol. They will tell us that if you have high cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, that you increase your risk hugely, bigly, for having a heart attack, for having a stroke, for having serious health issues. But if you look at the actual research and dig into it, the research doesn't show that. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, so don't take this as any medical advice. YouTube, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not saying not to take your medication. I'm just giving my thoughts and my opinions here in this video. So let's get that out of the way. This is a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor. This isn't medical advice. But they tell us that this is going to do all this, but you look at the research and dig right into it, and this research is actually funded by Big Pharma. They will take and they will tell their scientists, they're researchers that they want them to find this result. And they will find it, and they will find that result because they're trying to find that result. They'll manipulate, they will twist, they will bend the numbers, they will lie with statistics to get the result they want. And then this comes a medical fact that they can treat something like cholesterol, high cholesterol, with statins, with medication. And it's been shown that we need cholesterol in our brains and our bodies and our hormones to function properly. And I've seen a lot of cardiologists talking about this. And they will come out and they will say it's not cholesterol. It has nothing to do with it whatsoever at all. It is carbohydrates. It is inflammation. That's what causes clogged arteries. That's what causes heart attacks and strokes is high carbohydrates and inflammation in your body. It also causes cancer. Carbohydrates also will cause more inflammation in your body. So it all goes back to carbohydrates. If you go to the doctor and they give you a blood test and they call you back in a week or so, oh, you've got high cholesterol. I'm going to prescribe you a statin to get those numbers down to what Big Pharma said it's supposed to be. And you take that statin and you feel like holy shit, you feel terrible, all kinds of side effects from that. You felt better before and you're thinking, man, this isn't helping any at all. I'm sicker now than what I was. I did feel pretty good, now I feel like total complete shit. But to keep taking it and taking it and taking it and experiencing all kinds of side effects and who knows what it's going to cause in the future. But if you'd have came in and you'd have had, high triglycerides or something you need to get down because that's important. That's caused by carbohydrates, also on your blood sugar levels, makes those triglycerides go up. So you need to bring those down because that is an issue. And again, it goes back to carbohydrates. But they don't tell us this. You go into the doctor and you get a blood test and you come back with high cholesterol. They tell you to eat a diet that's low in red meat, that's low in fat. Eat a lot of grains, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, a lot of oats and things like that, and Cheerios to lower your cholesterol down. Take this pill. We'll get those numbers down and we'll be good to go. It's like with blood pressure. You go in there with blood pressure and the numbers, it's been, again, funded by Big Pharma, and the numbers were 140 over 90 for a long time, and it was 100 plus your age on the top for a long time, and then the bottom is supposed to be about 40 points lower than the top number. That's what it was forever. Then it's 140 over 90 was considered normal. Then it got down to 130, I think it was, over 80, and then they wanted to bring it down now to 120 over 115, and lower and lower and lower, according to the research. So they can prescribe more medication and have you coming back to the doctor. They can have you getting blood work done. They can have you paying more money for the pills and for everything you need to keep your blood pressure, try to get your number down to 115 over 70 or whatever it's supposed to be now. That's why a lot of older people, when they get up, the blood pressure's supposed to be higher because they're older. Their arteries aren't as flexible. It goes up with age. It's natural. But they get on these pills and it forces it down, sometimes 3 or 4 pills to force that number down, and they get up out of the bed and they do this because they're dizzy, because their blood pressure is too low. It needs to be a little bit higher to keep them, moving, to keep them going. So it's all about money. It's not about health. It's not about anything like that. It's all about the money. And you look at everything. I just talked about cholesterol and blood pressure here, but a lot of different things are like that. And the doctors, a lot of those doctors actually try to help. They think they're helping. They might actually care about their patients. But they've been taught by Big Pharma, they've been taught by the colleges, this is what it is. This is the science. That's why you saw a lot of doctors taking this. From the pandemic we had here a few years ago, they were taking this, they were recommending that. And if they didn't, they lost their medical license. That's another incentive. They don't want to lose their medical license. They get this practice to go to school, they got this debt, they got families, they got a girlfriend on the side a lot of times, and they got boats and yachts and airplanes, and they got to keep this money going, and they don't want to rock the boat, so they just go by, what Big Pharma says, what the medical guidelines that Big Pharma sets are. It's not really about health. If you went into the doctor and you had high blood pressure, if you had high triglycerides, and they told you to cut out carbohydrates, cut out sugar, cut out processed foods, eat more red meat, eat more fat meat, eat more eggs, eat more bacon. Get your bowels working more consistently. That'll lower, your cholesterol. That'll lower your blood pressure. That'll lower your triglycerides. If you do that, if your cholesterol's actually high, which, in my opinion, the numbers is way lower than what it actually should be. There's probably a cutoff, but they keep lowering their numbers down to get it lower and lower and lower to make everyone a patient. And that's sad. It really, truly is. That's just like I was doing some research here recently about colonoscopies. And they tell us here in the United States, when you get, it used to be 55, I think that it was, to start getting your colonoscopies. 1 every 10 years, 55 years old, get the colonoscopy. If you have a relative, like a mother or a father that had colon cancer, you're supposed to go 5 years before that, so it was 50. And now they've got it down to 45. Everyone's supposed to go get a colonoscopy. And if you have a family history, I think it's 40 now. So lower and lower and lower. They'll have you going in to get a colonoscopy before long. They're 10 years old. And did you know that the United States and 3 other countries are the only countries that recommend and do those routine colonoscopies like that? Other countries don't do that. Other countries, if you're having symptoms of colon cancer, they will give you a fit test to check for, blood. And if it comes back positive, if you have blood, then they will send you for a colonoscopy. But just sending you every 10 years for a colonoscopy like clockwork, no other country does that besides the United States and 3 other countries. Most don't do that. That's not the procedure. That's not the recommendations. Most countries, like I said, the United States and 3 other countries do those colonoscopies that way. And I did more research. The UK don't do colonoscopies that way. In the UK, if you have symptoms, and sometimes these other countries every year will recommend you take, that fit test, a blood test to see if there's any blood in your bowel movement. They'll check that every year. And that's how they check, $20 or so for that check. You can actually buy a fit test on Amazon. But they will test for that. Then if you show up, you have symptoms and you have blood, then they'll send you for, a colonoscopy. That's the way it works. But I looked at the death rate for every 100,000 people in the United States per 100,000 people in the UK. Was there more people that died in the UK from colon cancer than in the United States? Actually, it's not. It's actually really, really close. With the United States having a few, like 1.5 percentage points more deaths from colon cancer than they do in the UK. Now, think about that. And the UK doesn't do those routine colonoscopies. And there's a lot of, not saying not to do it, you take your doctor's advice, like I said, go with what you think that you need for yourself. But I think a lot's about money. It wasn't for the financial incentive, $3,000 or $4,000 for a colonoscopy every 10 years for everybody in the United States that's over the age of 40. That's a lot of friggin' money right there going into the establishment. And if you look at the results compared to the United States compared to the UK, for example, it just gives a fit test. Unless you come back positive for that blood. Death rate per 100,000 people from colon cancer, not just their death rate from colon cancer, is higher in the United States than it is there. Now you explain that to me. How's that possible? It's not just death in general, it's from colon cancer deaths. I think it's like 1.5% higher in the United States than it is in the UK. And I did this research online myself, looking at articles and research. Plus, I asked ChatGPT to do the same research, a deep research, and it came back with the same results. So it's about money. It is about money. Just like our food supply here is poison. The stuff they put in the food. If you look at these boxed foods and you look at the back of the label, you see all kinds of shit that you can't even recognize what that it says. Chemicals. Are we supposed to eat chemicals? Colorings, dyes, fake everything, artificial sweeteners, all this stuff. It's all man-made. If you look at all your food, it's all crap. But they will tell you to stop eating red meat, to cut back on the red meat and fat. Don't eat those eggs. Don't use that salt. You have a heart attack. You know, they've told us that crap for years. Lay off the salt because it's high blood pressure. No proof of that whatsoever at all. No actual proof of that. Not all I can find anyway. And according to Dr. Ken Berry, no proof of that salt causes high blood pressure. I mean, probably if you ate a salt shaker every day full of salt, it might raise it up a few percentage points. I don't know. But it's crap. They tell us crap to do this. Give us these pills. Eat more. Eat more Cheerios. Eat more oats. Eat more whole grains. Eat more vegetables to get your cholesterol down, to get your blood pressure down. Lay off the red meat because red meat causes cancer. And then we look at all the pollution. And I know people are going to say, oh gosh, he's going to talk about chemtrails here now. And yeah, it's been proven. They're spraying the sky with aluminum, with all kinds of different metals. We're getting in the air to reflect the sunlight back out. And for, you know, weather modification, they're doing it. It's on the books. Look for geoengineering. Geoengineering. Don't look for chemtrails. Don't do research on chemtrails. Look for geoengineering. Google Bill Gates blocking out the sun. That shows what they want to do. And if they're coming out saying it, they're already doing it. We have different states like Florida, like Tennessee, trying to pass laws against this weather modification, against this spraying the skies with all this crap that they're doing. But people say, oh, it's just water condensation. Water condensation makes a trail behind the jet, but it's not these huge long trails. And you can watch the jet fly through, and as it's flying through, you'll see that behind, but it disappears. It's pretty short, maybe about twice the size, the length of the jet, maybe 3 times, but it's disappearing as the jet goes along. When you see these long trails that they're spraying out, and then it just spreads like this across the sky and covers the sky, and you go out the next evening, or that evening, and it's still there, it hasn't dissipated, and the whole sky is still covered from all these jets doing checkerboard patterns across the sky, and spread it out and just lingers, and it looks like a grayish looking, dirty looking covering over the sky. That is those metals that they're putting in the air to block out the sun that cause problems. And that stuff is falling to the ground. There's been tests done for aluminum, for example, and places that should not have aluminum at all in the ground has aluminum. So it's getting more difficult to grow food. They're blocking out the sun. More difficult to grow food. They're wanting to cut, like Bill Gates wanting to cut down the trees to make carbon blocks. I mean, crazy shit. Crazy. If you look at all this stuff they're doing, just like the stuff the FDA approved because they're funded by Big Pharma, the head people. A lot of those people worked for Big Pharma, worked for Pfizer, for example. And he put these people at the head of the FDA and get those jobs. And they approve all this crap, all these things, all these guidelines. Just like this, they approved. I mean, just and the babies, man, what is it now, 65 vaccines by the time they're 2 years old, and they're just constantly putting that needle in those babies. That needle goes in those babies. Shoot them full of this, shoot them full of that, shoot them full of this, shoot them full of some of this. It is crazy. Anybody that thinks that the establishment, that the government agencies, that any of this stuff cares about us, cares about our health, are delusional. They care about one thing: profit. Or actually 2 things: profit and power. 2 things they care about: profit and power. We have some of these other people want to lower the population and move us into smart cities to get us all on digital currencies with all the AI to control, monitor, and surveil. And then if you eat too much red meat, they will cut your central bank digital currency out. They will lower your purchasing power, to lower your ability to travel. My camera here is getting dim. Anyways, what do you think about all this? Do you think I'm a lunatic? Do you think I'm crazy? Like I said, I'm not a doctor, but from my research, everything I've said here is factual, 100% factual. It's like the colonoscopy thing. And another thing about that too, they will go in and they will find a polyp. And they will cut it out of there. And you'll come back to, we found a precancerous polyp. We saved your life. Not telling you that the vast majority, from my research, and from what I saw using Grok and ChatGPT, that the vast majority, like 90-something% of polyps never cause any cancer, never do cause any issues. They're just a polyp. It's like a small piece of skin pretty much in there, like a small sac or a small piece of skin. They cut it out. Oh, we prevented you from getting cancer. Maybe. But you take the risk of going up in there and there's bowel punctures, there's all kinds of bleeding issues that people have, all kinds of issues. I saw that, I think it was, I can't remember these stats in my head, I don't have them written down. I think it was 1 in 1,000 people had a serious incident from a colonoscopy, like bleeding, like punctured from the inside out. Major issues, 1 in 1,000 I think that it was, and then a lot more has smaller issues with it. I mean, they are a good thing if you have symptoms, in my opinion. And I mean, you look at, there's a doctor, Sunil Dan, or Dehan, I think it's Sunil Dan, it was pronounced. He's an Indian guy, like a tall Indian guy. And he's an actual medical doctor, and he was saying that he wasn't going to be getting one when it's his time to get one. And talking about the fact that the United States and only 3 other countries did that. He's got me doing some more research, because I was listening to him saying that, and I was like, is this guy telling the truth? Is he correct? I did research, and he's correct. He's definitely correct. And I did more research about, like the UK and deaths of colon cancer, not just deaths, but deaths from colon cancer per 100,000 people. United States is higher, even though we do all those colonoscopies all the time at a younger and younger age. Can't talk today for some reason. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, death rate from that particular cancer is actually a little bit higher in the United States than it is the UK, where they don't do those colonoscopies all the time. So, what's the benefit? I mean, is there a benefit? Am I missing something? Like I said, they go in, snip, oh, we got a precancerous polyp. That's like, you have things on your skin that are sun damage from the sun on your skin. What they tell us, like over here on my face right here, up in the side right here. And they say it's precancerous, but it's not cancer. And I've done my research that over your lifetime, it's like about 5%, maybe, and that's probably, with the numbers been twisted around, actually turn into cancer. Most of the time it's completely harmless, nothing at all to worry about. But they tell us this, they tell us that, tell us something else. I mean, it's crazy, it really, truly is. I'm probably like I'm jabbering right now, but I'm just thinking in my brain's going pow, 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 with all these issues and all these thoughts that I want to share here in this video. But it seems to me like no one gives a shit about the people, no one cares about our health, no one cares about our well-being, and that includes the government, that includes the government agencies, that includes big pharma. And like I said, I'm not talking about the doctors. There's some good doctors that actually try, like some Neil Dan, he actually tries. I think Ken Berry actually tries. There's quite a few good doctors, but they're got their hands cuffed by big pharma. And they go to school, and they're taught this and taught this and taught this, and they think that it's factual, it's the science, it has to be true. But instead of telling you to cut out carbohydrates, they tell you to cut out red meat, to cut out this, to cut out that, and to take this big pharma medication for life. Anyways, guys, comment below and what you think. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hopefully. Maybe. We'll see.